When we talk about the true signs that prove someone is on a genuine spiritual journey, it's important to understand that spirituality is not a single moment of enlightenment or a linear path that is the same for everyone. Instead, it is a deeply personal and evolving experience, one that requires us to be constantly aware of the subtle transformations that are taking place within us. The key is to recognize these changes and signs in ourselves and others, as they are indicators that we are truly walking a spiritual path and not just superficially engaging in spiritual practices. A true spiritual journey begins with a deep inner calling, one that often goes unnoticed until we can no longer ignore it. It's not something that we simply decide to embark on one day out of curiosity or intellectual interest. Rather, it often begins with a moment of inner discontent, a realization that the way we've been living no longer serves us. Perhaps this comes as a result of personal hardship, an emotional breakdown, or simply a quiet knowing that something more profound is calling us. If you've ever felt this inner stirring, then you are already taking the first step toward a genuine spiritual awakening.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
One of the most critical signs that you or someone else is on a true spiritual journey is the sense of inner transformation. This doesn't happen overnight, but gradually you start to notice a shift in how you relate to the world. You may find that things that once upset or angered you no longer have the same emotional hold over you. Perhaps situations that used to trigger fear, anxiety, or even hatred now seem like opportunities to learn and grow. You begin to react to life with greater patience, and there is a noticeable calmness in your energy. This shift often comes hand in hand with the practice of mindfulness. True spirituality requires that we become aware of the present moment in a way that most of us aren't accustomed to. It's not just about being aware of what's happening around you, but being attuned to the inner workings of your mind, your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Are you someone who has started to become more mindful of your daily experiences? If so, this is a powerful sign that you are evolving spiritually. Another sign of a true spiritual journey is a change in priorities. This is one of the most visible shifts because it often leads to significant changes in lifestyle. When we are on a spiritual path, material possessions, wealth, and status start to lose their importance. We begin to value experiences over possessions, relationships over success, and inner peace over external validation. Perhaps you've started to notice this shift in your own life. Maybe you've found yourself letting go of material desires, choosing simplicity over luxury, or focusing more on the quality of your relationships than on professional achievements. This shift in priorities is not something we consciously force, rather. It is a natural byproduct of our spiritual evolution. One of the most profound signs that you are on a genuine spiritual journey is the desire for truth. This desire often becomes overwhelming. No longer are you satisfied with superficial answers or surface-level understanding. You want to dig deeper, to uncover the real essence of life, of yourself, of the universe. You start to question everything you once believed to be true, whether it's about religion, society, or your own identity. This search for truth can sometimes feel lonely, especially when you realize that much of what you once accepted no longer resonates with you. But it's a necessary part of the journey. The spiritual path is one of peeling back layers, of discovering hidden truths that lie beneath the surface of our everyday experiences. At the same time, a deep sense of humility begins to emerge. You start to realize that the more you know, the more you don't know. This is perhaps one of the most beautiful aspects of a true spiritual journey. Instead of needing to be right, needing to prove yourself, or needing to hold on to fixed ideas, you become more comfortable with uncertainty. You develop a willingness to be wrong, to learn, and to grow. This humility doesn't mean that you think less of yourself, rather, it means that you have transcended the need for validation through intellectual superiority. You begin to trust in the process of life, in the natural unfolding of events, and in your own capacity to evolve. Another critical sign that someone is on a true spiritual journey is the experience of synchronicities. These are moments that feel like they are guided by something beyond coincidence when the right person, the right book, or the right opportunity shows up at exactly the right time. As you move further along your spiritual path, you may begin to notice these occurrences happening more frequently. Synchronicities are not random, they are signs that you are in alignment with the flow of the universe. When you are walking a true spiritual path, the universe tends to offer guidance in ways that may seem mystical or even miraculous. Now let's talk about relationships. One of the clearest indicators that someone is on a true spiritual journey is the shift in the way they relate to others. When you are truly walking the spiritual path, you become less reactive and more compassionate. You stop taking things personally and begin to see people for who they really are, souls on their own journey, just like you. This doesn't mean that you don't experience conflict or frustration, but it does mean that your perspective shifts. You become more understanding, more forgiving, and less judgmental. This change in relationships is often accompanied by a feeling of deep empathy. You begin to sense the interconnectedness of all beings, and this awareness brings with it a profound sense of compassion. Whether it's toward family members, friends, strangers, or even animals and nature, your heart opens in ways you never thought possible. You may find yourself crying at the sight of suffering or feeling an overwhelming sense of love for people you barely know. This compassion is not something that you can force, it arises naturally as you continue to walk the spiritual path. However, with all of this growth and expansion, there's another critical sign that can be easy to overlook: the experience of discomfort and challenge. Many people mistakenly believe that a spiritual journey is all about bliss, peace, and harmony. While those experiences certainly come, they are often preceded by periods of deep discomfort. The spiritual path forces us to confront the parts of ourselves that we would rather avoid: the shadows, the wounds, and the fears. True spirituality requires that we face these aspects of ourselves with courage and honesty. You may find that as you go deeper into your spiritual practice, old wounds start to surface. Past traumas, unresolved conflicts, and hidden fears begin to emerge, sometimes in unexpected ways. This can be incredibly challenging, but it is also a necessary part of the process. Healing cannot occur until we have faced the parts of ourselves that need to be healed. So if you are experiencing emotional upheaval, inner conflict, or even a sense of loss, know that this is a sign that you are on the right path. Spiritual growth is not always easy, but it is always worth it. As we continue to explore the critical signs that someone is on a true spiritual journey, it's important to acknowledge the role of isolation. One of the most profound yet difficult experiences on this path is the feeling of being alone. Many people, once they embark on their spiritual awakening, begin to feel a sense of separation from the world around them. This can manifest as a distance from friends, family, or even society at large. You may start to feel like you no longer fit into the same spaces you once did, and the conversations or activities that used to bring you joy might no longer resonate with you. This sense of isolation is not a punishment or something to be feared. It's actually one of the clearest signs that you are undergoing a deep transformation. The spiritual path often requires periods of solitude so that you can connect more deeply with your inner self. In this space of stillness and quiet, you are able to listen to the voice of your soul without the distractions of the external world. It is during these times of isolation that the most profound realizations and shifts can occur. If you are feeling alone on your journey, remember that this is part of the process. It's a necessary phase that allows you to shed the old and make space for the new. However, it's also important to know that this isolation is temporary. As you continue to evolve, you will eventually find your spiritual community, people who resonate with your newfound awareness and who are walking similar paths. But first, the journey requires you to go inward and embrace the silence. Now let's talk about spiritual gifts. One of the more mystical signs that someone is on a true spiritual journey is the emergence of spiritual abilities or heightened intuitive powers. This may come in the form of clairvoyance, the ability to see visions or gain insight through dreams. For others, it might be an increase in empathy, the ability to feel and sense the emotions of others in a way that was not possible before. Some people might develop the ability to connect with energies beyond the physical realm, communicating with spirit guides, ancestors, or even angels. These spiritual gifts are not random, they are a natural part of your soul's evolution. As you open yourself up to higher levels of consciousness, your connection to the unseen world becomes stronger. You may find that your intuition is heightened, that you start receiving messages through signs or synchronicities, or that you have a clearer sense of purpose and direction in life. While these gifts can feel overwhelming at first, they are a sign that you are aligning with your true spiritual nature. It's important to approach these gifts with humility and respect. Spiritual abilities are not something to be flaunted or used for personal gain. Instead, they are tools to help guide you on your path and to assist others in their journeys. As you develop these gifts, it's crucial to stay grounded and centered. Spiritual growth is not about escaping reality or becoming detached from the physical world. It's about learning to integrate these higher abilities into your everyday life in a way that serves the greater good. Another powerful sign that someone is on a true spiritual journey is the dissolution of the ego. The ego, in this context, refers to the part of ourselves that is attached to our identity, our roles, and our sense of self-importance. It's the part of us that clings to labels, achievements, and external validation. On a spiritual path, we are asked to let go of the ego's need for control and surrender to a higher power, to something greater than ourselves. This process can be incredibly challenging because the ego does not want to be dissolved. It fights to maintain its grip on our lives, creating resistance in the form of fear, doubt, and insecurity. But as we continue to grow spiritually, the ego begins to lose its hold. We start to realize that we are not our titles, our possessions, or even our personalities. We are something far deeper: pure consciousness, pure awareness, an eternal soul that transcends the limitations of the physical body and mind. As the ego dissolves, you may begin to experience a profound sense of freedom. You are no longer bound by the expectations of society or the need to prove yourself to others. You start to live more authentically, making decisions based on your soul's guidance rather than the desires of your ego. This can be a liberating experience, but it also requires immense trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the universe, and trust in the process of spiritual transformation. However, it's important to note that the dissolution of the ego does not mean that you completely lose your sense of self. Instead, it means that you transcend the limited, fear-based aspects of the ego while still honoring your individuality. You are able to see yourself as both a unique expression of the divine and as a part of the greater whole. This dual awareness of being both the individual and the universal leads to a deep sense of peace and connection. Another crucial sign of a true spiritual journey is the experience of deep inner peace, even in the midst of chaos. Life is full of challenges, uncertainties, and difficult emotions. But when you are truly walking the spiritual path, you start to cultivate an inner calm that is unshaken by external circumstances. This doesn't mean that you never feel anger, sadness, or fear. Those emotions are part of the human experience. But it means that you no longer allow those emotions to control you. Instead of reacting to life's challenges with panic or frustration, you begin to respond with grace and acceptance. You start to see challenges as opportunities for growth, and you trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, even when it doesn't make sense in the moment. This deep inner peace is not something that can be forced. It comes from a place of deep spiritual understanding, from knowing that you are always supported by a higher power, even when the path ahead seems unclear. At this point in your journey, you may begin to experience moments of profound stillness, moments where you feel completely at peace with yourself and the world around you. These moments are often accompanied by a sense of awe as you realize the interconnectedness of all things. You may feel a deep connection to nature, to the people around you, and to the universe as a whole. This sense of unity is one of the most beautiful aspects of a true spiritual journey. However, the path is not without its challenges. One of the final and most critical signs of a true spiritual journey is the acceptance of impermanence. Everything in life is temporary: our thoughts, our emotions, our physical bodies, and even our relationships. On the spiritual path, we learn to embrace this impermanence rather than resist it. We understand that change is a natural part of life, and we stop clinging to things out of fear of losing them. This acceptance of impermanence leads to a deep sense of liberation. We are no longer afraid of death or loss because we understand that everything is part of a greater cycle. We begin to appreciate the beauty of each moment, knowing that it is fleeting. And in this appreciation, we find true joy not in holding on to things, but in experiencing them fully while they last.